All right, everyone. We have on the line one of our advisors to Hummingbot, Harry Yeh. Harry is a longtime trader. He's been in the space for a long time, and now he runs a quant fund based in the Middle East. So maybe it's kicking things off, Harry. Would you mind introducing yourself to the Hummingbot community?
Sure. Hey, Michael. Nice to finally get on the call with you. So my name is Harry Yeh. I've run OTC desk before, named Binary Binary Fintech Group, and we recently just started a quant hedge fund called Protocol Ventures Quant Fund. So this is the third fund that I've gotten into specifically that deals with trading cryptocurrencies. But my first fund that we're focusing really more on just using quant to trade. So we use a combination of proprietary trading strategies, but Hummingbot's also a key part of what we're using in the fund as well to do electronic market making.
Yeah, cool. So for those of you guys who don't know, I actually met Harry through Hummingbot. He came on a Discord about a year ago, and we just started talking about market making. And I think Harry's been really instrumental in the development of Hummingbot because a lot of the kind of like the strategies and a lot of the parameters that we've built in has been a result of the advice that we've gotten from Harry. And so that's why I wanted to get Harry on the line because now that we have more and more users for Hummingbot, the perspectives of the professionals, can really help the individual and other users of Hummingbot understand how to use it better. So I wanted to just kind of get Harry on the phone today and just talk about his experience trading to try to help our users do better in terms of market making. So Harry, maybe we could get into more details about your background. How do you get into crypto trading?
Sure. So first, I'd like to say thanks for creating such an amazing product. Before we got talking to even about kind of how I got into crypto trading, like the project that you built is probably one of the ones that I'm the most excited about. I'm happy to be an advisor because a lot of funds out there that do black box trading. But what happens is, my background's engineering, but also trading and running a business, but I only have so much time in the day. So for me, it was very, very challenging trying to, build a market maker and run a business at the same time, because every time we'd start building something in Python or Golang or Node.js, then the market happens. So then you have to balance trading and engineering. So we kind of built a rudimentary market maker ourselves to integrate, with Kraken and Binance, but it was just very, very difficult to get to a part where we had a working product. We could execute trades, but there's a lot of intelligence, such as tracking the order book, having to just even analyze the trades, being able to place orders, buys and sells. But having something that works very, very well and is independent and very, very easy to deploy, you guys should definitely be commended. This is what I love about the product so much, is that I think of it as like a CG miner, but for market making. So that's sorry. I just thought it'd be important for people to know why I'm involved with the project as well, because as an engineer, it's very, very challenging to try to build a system that can trade for you. So to me, market making is the evolution of in cryptocurrency. You need more market makers and liquidity for the ecosystem to really, really grow. So.
Yeah. And I think it's because you come from an engineering background that you kind of like understand like the philosophy of Hummingbot. It's like the software part is not the secret sauce. It just helps you build the strategy. But the secret sauce is really like the strategy that users employ in order to use the software.
And at the end of the day, I like to tell people that all the strategies that I put into Hummingbot are essentially Hummingbot's just doing what it's impossible for me to do as a human being. I have a strategy that I like to trade. However, for me to trade it 100, 1,000 times, even 24 hours a day it's impossible. And if I want to capture spreads that are, 10 basis points, 25 basis points, 100 basis points, and if I really want to trade without emotion, because even though I've been trading for, since 2000, just go back, I guess we'll segue into kind of my background of how I got into crypto trading. So I've been trading since 2000. I was trading stocks before. And then in 2008, one of my friends that ran a hedge fund started talking to me a little bit more about high frequency trading, on the S&P 500, futures. So I started trading stocks, penny stocks, and stock options as well. And I was hooked. I really, really love trading, but
And
You
also,
know, during
so to do
the
me
worst
interrupt,
time.
were you doing this on the side or like full time back
Yeah,
then?
so I ran a computer consulting company, and I at that point I was hooked because all of my friends went to go work for Wall Street, but I was the one that went and did the whole Silicon Valley thing. I worked at Microsoft, Hewlett Packard, took the engineering route. So I kind of did it backwards. All my friends that were investment bankers went into investment banking and worked for hedge funds.
Hmm.
I kind of went the other route. I did like the Microsoft, the tech route, and then some of my friends in venture said, "Hey, when Bitcoin came around, I just love trading it, like trading stocks." And I got into Bitcoin hardcore trading in 2013. So all the experience that I had from wanting to work for a hedge fund.
Hmm.
So when I backtrack in 2008, I studied the CAIA, I studied private equity and how to get into hedge funds, but that was the worst time to go work for a hedge fund because everything collapsed. And Lehman Brothers actually offered me a job interview, but they wouldn't pay for my flight to go over. So I wonder why. So that's kind of how I got exposed to finance, and trading is just something I've always been very, very passionate about because I believe you kind of control your own destiny, and being able to trade independently and do it for a living is like I love it because I can make money 24 hours a day. Um, and it gives me a lot of freedom that most people can't. It gives me like I can make money and I can deploy it. So aside from investing, trading is just another type of investing to me is like a form of trading, but trading is just the frequency is a lot more than investing. Like investing is a longer time period. So for me, it's like the more trades that I can get done in a system, the better you get at it. So the more trades you execute, in my opinion, the better you be, the more familiar you get with the market. And it doesn't matter if you're trading stocks, options. For me, I love trading Bitcoin the most. And the irony is, I wanted to learn to trade Bitcoin to make enough money so that I could go and trade stocks.
Really?
So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
it's kind of funny, but
Well, so how did you, I guess, like, how do you go from like being just like a hobbyist, like you're just like doing it on the side, to um, like doing full time and launching a fund?
sure. So I mean, when I got in to Bitcoin in 2013, I started with mining,
Okay.
and my experience with Bitcoin was kind of a eureka moment. The first time I heard about it, I kind of dismissed it, but I kept hearing about it. When Bitcoin was about $60. Then one of my friends told me about Bitcoin mining, and then he told me he made like 10 grand in a month. So I'm like, wow, I gotta take this a bit more seriously. So then when I first saw how Bitcoin actually worked,
Hmm.
where it was a peer-to-peer system, you could transfer value and people would give you money, I instantly knew the power of it because it was the only digital asset that you couldn't counterfeit. It's used in the digital world. You can counterfeit movies, you can counterfeit so many different things, but cryptocurrency is just one of those things that you can't counterfeit. And when I studied the subprime meltdown in 2008, also like a lot of the large hedge fund blowups,
Hmm.
for long-term capital management, you start to see that there's a trend where there's a lot of bailouts and money printing.
Hmm.
So seeing that inflation has gone up almost 100% since 2008, it's nice to see that something was created because of the distrust for central governments, but also it allows you to transfer value 24 hours a day, which is incredible. So for me, when I saw that with Bitcoin, when I was using a Bitcoin QT, I was like, I need to figure out a way to accumulate more Bitcoin. So I got into Bitcoin mining first, but mining to me was okay. It's great as a hobbyist in engineering, and I didn't even tell you this, but at one point I think I built like a half, like a 400 terahash or gigahash
Okay.
mining server.
Oh, okay.
It was so much work in our first one.
Hmm.
I had to choose between doing OTC trading or mining.
Right.
So I really focused on building, one of the most trusted brands in the space for high net worth clients and institutions. So if somebody wants to buy $5 or $10 million worth of Bitcoin, we were the ones that helped people do that. So a lot of the big venture funds, even in Silicon Valley, we helped them buy some of the first Bitcoin. But I also knew that OTC in itself, once the market matured a bit more,
Yeah.
that the margin you get margin compression, which is natural as an industry evolves. And at that time, electronic trading wasn't very, very mature yet. But I knew that longer term, the goal for us was always to get to where we are now. So why I'm so excited about Hummingbot is everything that I've been wanting to work on for like the last 7 to 8 years. This year, in the last 3 months, I've been able to execute my vision, and Hummingbot is a core central part of that. So I have to thank you because without electronic trading, even though we're just getting started with the electronic trading, it is a core piece fundamentally of what we're trying to do. It's a big piece of our infrastructure.
Yeah, no, that's really gratifying to hear, because I think when we first launched Hummingbot a year ago, it was much more like it was more of a toy, for individuals. But I think as we kind of like make it more mature, we're starting to see that funds like yours and others are starting to use it. So over time, we do think that Hummingbot will become more and more of a professional tool for funds as well as individuals.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's open source. You can add to it. You can contribute to the project. So for me, just even being able to take my input to help create a great product, that's where the engineering part of my background comes in. Is I love to build great products, but when you're running a hedge fund and you're trading, building a product is kind of second, and you need something that really, really works. So for us, it's helped us create much better strategies as well. And I can't wait to test some of the back testing stuff you were talking about. But definitely being able to even execute and interface with the exchanges and the APIs right now, we're ahead of where we needed to be, which is great.
Yeah. So it sounds like in 2013 you built an OTC business that became kind of one of the largest OTC desks in crypto.
We're definitely one of the first. I think we even built the first. It was Binary Financial was actually the first hedge fund. We started a hedge fund in 2014, and the strategy was really, there were no hedge funds back then. I think Daniel Masters, they set up a fund in 2014, but ours was really, really more focused on, cryptocurrency mining, arbitrage, and electronic market making. But we couldn't really do the electronic market making as much just because we only had so much time to do things. So we really, really focused on OTC and just buy and hold. So the fund did pretty well. I think the first one we returned about 230% to our investors. Yeah. The second fund was more of a buy and hold. And that one returned anywhere between 30% on the low end to I think one of our investors got 700% because he exited at very top. Yeah. So, but those first two funds were really kind of multi-strategy hedge funds and more kind of buy and hold type funds. This fund that I'm working on right now, I'm most excited about because it's really a vision of what I've been trying to do even for myself.
I see.
And it scales because providing liquidity is just one of those things that exchanges can't get enough of. So our target's to be trading at least in excess of over $100 to $200 million per month just to get started. And the only way you can do that is with electronic.
Right. And can you tell me more about the fund? You mentioned Protocol Ventures is also involved with the fund.
Yeah. So let me tell you a bit about the quant fund. So Protocol Ventures is the first fund is called they're a fund of funds. But we started a second one that I'm involved with called Protocol Ventures Quant Fund, and it's a Cayman U.S. quant hedge fund. And this fund is specifically designed to run quant strategies in conjunction with proprietary trading. So, of course, the goal is to generate alpha by trading, multiple pairs more frequently, capturing narrow spreads versus trying to hit home runs all day long. So I'd rather have 1,000 trades that capture maybe 20 to 30 basis points because that's more consistent. You get a lot more wins, a lot more losses, but you'll also capture that just over a period of time when the market's not as volatile, you can capture a lot of returns. But I'd rather do that than have a couple proprietary trading strategies that only capture 2 to 3%. So our fund really kind of marries the two because at the end of the day, I still don't think any product out there can just 100% be run by humans. Our fund certainly uses Hummingbot as a tool, but at the end of the day, you still need the human behind to develop the strategies. And this is an iterative process as well for us. But having Hummingbot there is definitely a key part because I leave it running all day.
Yeah. Actually, I think this piece is something that's really valuable for our users because I think some of our new users kind of like when they come into the community, they just like run the very basic strategy and leave it on for like 3 days without touching it, and then
Yeah,
come back
and that
and yeah. Like I guess how would you kind of like how would you think about kind of using Hummingbot in the context of your strategy?
sure. So I think one of the questions you asked me earlier was like, what made me get into market making?
Yeah.
And what made me get into market making was that I realized that okay, humans were only limited. We're limited by time and output. So for us, 1 second, 1 minute, we can only really think in minute terms, hourly terms, even daily terms is tough. But computers can handle, the seconds, the microseconds, the nanoseconds, milliseconds. So we're able to kind of compress time in an opportunity and have computers, execute trades for us. So this is one of the reasons why market making for us, electronic trading is, the final frontier of trading. Because if you look at even traditional markets like, Nasdaq, I think Renaissance Capital at one point they were 30% of the Nasdaq volume. Citadel, a lot of these major hedge funds, quant and electronic is a big part of their trading strategy, and it has to be because um, that's where everything is going now. But the world's global, and my first exposure, like I said, to electronic trading was in 2007, 2008. One of my friends that ran a hedge fund told me about it, and I knew that this is the future.
Yeah. Cool. So maybe kind of I think that now that you're market making, um, I guess I think we had this conversation about kind of like how the philosophy of market making. Love to kind
Sure.
of do that because I think one thing that I think I had this belief before, which is like the more trades, the more orders you put on the book, and the faster you refresh them, the better. And I think when we first met, you told me about a different strategy where it's like you kind of like leave orders on the book and kind of like
Sure.
like let them, and that kind of actually turned into our hang orders parameter that we built.
Hmm.
um, would you mind kind of sharing more about that
Sure, of
strategy?
course. So what most people don't realize, and I think it's important to really understand trading and a little bit more of the market first before you run Hummingbot. One of the reasons I've had good success running Hummingbot is I understand trading. So at the end of the day, it's like saying, okay, here's a Lamborghini and you don't know how to drive a sports car. Well, somebody gives you a sports car, you're going to crash it. It's exactly the same thing with Hummingbot. You really need to understand the mechanics of trading. You have to understand what limit orders are. You have to understand, um, the different, bid ask, parameters, order cancellations, even order levels. So I would say most of the parameters in there, probably about 30% of them are ones that I was like, okay, have order levels. It's important because if I'll give you an example. When I'm running Hummingbot, I have one strategy where I might leave orders on the book for days because I think that the market is range bound. So it's better to have limit orders that are open and that aren't canceled, because if you cancel them, well, you're not letting the market do its thing. And what most people don't realize is the market moves in waves, right? So if you have limit orders placed on the order book at all time, now you can refresh them if you want, but I think if you refresh the orders too frequently, what happens is when an order gets filled, then then the market moves. Then what ends up happening is, well, you've all of a sudden now only one side of the order is filled, so you're either trying to replace that order and you end up doing a fill and you take a loss. So I think what's important for a lot of new users first is maybe even run Hummingbot with a setting where um, it doesn't cancel the orders. And so, for example, I have one where I set it to like I think 4 million seconds or something like that, where
Right.
it just never refreshes an order. And the reason I do that is because I want these limit orders to fill. And when the limit orders fill, then it'll delay and wait till the market refreshes the new order book data, and then it places two new orders. And I think when you see how that works, then people will understand the market comes to you
Hmm.
versus you trying to chase the market. Now, when you're doing proprietary trading, and you think there's a market breakout, great, you can chase that because you're human, you understand how that works. But when you're running a market making bot, it's a very, very different strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and actually, I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of folks that kind of come into market making from they do have a trading background, and I think it's more like it's hard to wrap your head around like the strategy of a market maker because it's not as easy to like point at a graph, point a chart. I'm going to go here.
No,
I think it's more of like kind of like and one thing I always tell users to do is like just watch the market, just like look at the market and see how it trades for like 10 minutes
yeah,
to observe the pattern and then kind of like try to build that intuition into your strategy.
yeah. I think people with Hummingbot, they expect the bot to just chase the price and automatically do the best fill and ask, and that's just not how the market works.
Hmm.
If that was, then everybody would be making money,
Right, right.
right? So I think that's probably one of the most important things is to understand what limit orders are and to just watch the bot sit on the book. Now, I might have different bots. I might have one bot that trades very, very narrow spreads. And so when the market's volatile, it'll do one thing. So that's the beauty is with Hummingbot, I think just for Bitcoin US dollar pair alone on 2 exchanges, we run 8 instances.
Oh.
Yeah, but each instance is Bitcoin US dollar and will run, connected to an exchange, but then it'll be different strategies. So for us, even just going through that process, we're like, this is such a greatly engineered product because I can run 4 different strategies using Linux, and we run on Google Compute inside a virtual machine, and we use the screen command in Linux so that on one machine I can run multiple Docker images. So it's perfect. It's great.
Yeah.
It's definitely a great start for where we need to be, and we're excited to be able to build integrations later on where we can pass parameters to dynamically tell the market maker to change things.
Yep. That should be coming very soon.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned volatility because volatility is one of the things that kind of like tends to change. And I think I feel like experienced market makers like volatility because they make more money during those times.
I love volatility.
Yeah, and
if you're a trader, I love volatility. I don't care if it goes up, the price goes up or down, just as long as it's proven. So, for example, this week we, definitely, it's good to be able to pick the top on the short and kind of close to the bottom, but you can only really do that if you're constantly trading all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're always in the market.
Yeah, and I think this part I think will be really valuable for our users because I think a lot of them tend to lose money when the market becomes more volatile because of how they're setting their bots. But so in your opinion, how should like market makers profit from?
So I think no matter what you do, market makers tend to trade in a range. They work the best when they trade in a range. So when there's a lot of volatility in the market, you just have to have a bot or configuration that's set up with much wider spreads. But definitely, I would say the only way to really kind of handle volatility is, you can hedge with futures, but that's a bit more of an advanced topic. But I would probably say that the most important thing is scaling in and scaling out of position. So having that wide spread is important, but probably invest or trade with only what you can afford to lose. I think that's very, very important because sometimes we run Hummingbot. So for example, we have a live instance of it running right now where, it was market making between $9,200 and $9,300, but our limit orders filled outside of 9,200. So we have got 2 choices. One is we can leave the bot running. And right now I've got limit orders that are going to fill at 93 and above, but I have to wait because it's already filled all the buy orders. Now, if Bitcoin continues to drop, then I'm essentially a bag holder and I have to hold Bitcoin. So then you have to make the conscious decision. Okay, do I stop Hummingbot now and then I just execute all the Bitcoin that I've bought at a market order or a limit order? So sometimes we do that, and this is where the human part comes in because sometimes the bot doesn't go back into the wave of the limit orders, right?
Mhm.
So that's probably the part where there was some volatility. So for example, it was trading in the range of 90, 92 to 93 for about 36 hours. Then it broke out of that range. Now it's trading in the 90, yeah, 90, 92 to 91 and 9,000 range. So
Yep.
I have a bunch of my sell orders above.
Yep.
So this is kind of where you have to be a trader and really look at, okay, do I think the market's going to recover or do I think it's going to drop?
I see.
And by the same token, if you think the market is going to go up, well, you don't want to have your market maker execute all of the sells for you. Stop
Yeah.
your market maker and wait for the price to go up. Do some maths. If it's going up, set very very clearly defined exits as well, and don't
Yeah.
be greedy.
Interesting. So it sounds like you kind of tend to use Hummingbot more actively. So it's not like you kind of tend to use it alongside of like a proprietary trading strategy.
We use it alongside, but we're watching it. We The best way to think of Hummingbot, at least in our organization, is that it's just another trader on our team,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
But it's a trader that we tell it what to do, and pretty much when it's out of the range and it's like, okay, I can't trade anymore because I don't have enough money or whatever. And this is also another very important thing: is create a dedicated account just for Hummingbot versus your proprietary trading. So I try not to mix the two.
Yeah, makes sense. So you can isolate the trades and calculate performance.
Want to isolate the trades. Also, another tip that I have too. So, for example, when we're trading on Kraken or Binance, if you don't want the market maker to trade all of your USD, I guess there's not a configuration parameter right now that you guys have to limit the amount.
Yeah.
So all I do is I just place a very very low limit order with a bunch of USD that is blocked off so that the bot can't access it.
Got it. That's interesting. Okay, I see. Interesting. Yeah, well, I think we are going to add that parameter pretty soon.
It's a pretty important parameter, I think, because I think what happens is people won't know this, and if they have too much money in their account, they'll end up over trading what they should have been trading.
Yeah.
And these are just some of the things that you learn. It's the same with Bitcoin. If you have too much Bitcoin in an account and it sells Bitcoin, it'll end up selling all of your Bitcoin. So these are just little nuances that, because we use a product every single day, we notice and we know how to get around it. But I think definitely having those in the product would be great.
Right. And switching gears a bit, we have a lot of new folks who are new to trading as well. They come from like an engineering background. I think you mentioned some advice for traders, like you said, make sure they really understand all the order types and the aspects of trading.
Yeah, and I've got a pretty good. There's a couple of talks that I've given at Bitcoin conferences about trading. So I'm happy to share that link with you and that you can post it.
Yeah.
And
okay.
It's a very, very good introduction on cryptocurrency trading. I think maybe even the one in January this year. I'm not sure if it had too much information on trading. I think it did.
Yeah. I think
there's definitely 2 videos I would recommend people watch.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. We'll post links to those videos in the comments, and how we do this, because I think those advice around just like the basics of trading is something that a lot of people need to understand. Yeah. Cool. And so how we switching gears a bit. You've been in this space for almost ever since almost 10 years now, right?
2013, about 7 years, 7 8 years.
Yeah. So that's like a
a
lifetime.
Longer than that, because we do this 24/7.
Right.
I haven't taken a day off from trading since 2013.
Wow.
So
yeah. So clearly the market's changed a lot since then. It was like it was like Mt. Gox back then, and now we're there's tons of exchanges. How has the market kind of changed in the?
I think one of the reasons we've done very well in this space is I thrive on change. This is one of the reasons I love the tech industry is it changes every couple of years.
Yeah.
So if you catch the right wave, you end up, there's just constantly change going on. And I think in the traditional technology space, things change every couple of years or 4 years. Crypto changes every couple months. So, and I think crypto is like accelerated. So like 1 year in crypto is like 4 years in the tech space, and 4 years in the tech space is like 8 years in the real world. So it's cryptocurrency moves very, very fast. And I would say probably the biggest changes I've seen. The first one is arbitrage ain't what it used to be.
Mm.
I used to buy Bitcoin for $800 in Canada and sell it in China for $1,300 US like 5 minutes later.
Wow.
Banking has come around too. It's definitely improved. So, I mean, you just see JP Morgan now they want to work with Coinbase.
Yep.
Before, just maintaining a bank account with cryptos were very, very hard. So it's nice that the banking problem has it's gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think people understand that blockchain, it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. Stable coins are another interesting innovation as well, because I think one of my friends says that stable coins are going to be like the new checking account, because it makes sense now. I can pay people in stable coin. That's probably one of the coolest things. It was first when our friends created Tether, we thought it was the craziest thing. Where like you created a US dollar backed cryptocurrency that runs on, and now Tether is Tether's the thing that spearheaded everything. So it's quite incredible.
Yeah.
And seeing how Ethereum worked too was pretty amazing. I think Ethereum definitely really helped the ecosystem because it was easier to just create tokens.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the biggest change that we've been anticipating is derivatives. Derivatives have really changed the game of the market. This market definitely feels a lot more like a traditional institutional market now. I mean, those days where you would have a dead cat bounce of 20% and then you can make 10% right off the bat, those just very rarely exist now.
Yeah. So you think the derivatives market is kind of like lessen like the volatility in the
it's lessened. I would say it's lessened the volatility. It's definitely created a lot more volatility this week. I mean, you have over $1.5 billion dollars worth of options expiration. I think the derivatives market now is probably way larger than the spot market.
Yeah.
You've got BitMEX, you've got even CME. CME trades like 400 or 500 million a day in contracts, and the CME. A lot of people don't realize this. The CME is probably the single biggest reason that Bitcoin tanked from 20,000 all the way down to what was it, 3,000. I mean, you have to post 3 times margin.
Yeah.
To trade on CME in 2017. So now, if you look at those changes, now options are a big thing. Now I think you can write covered calls now. But there's just all these different strategies out there now. So there's just more indicators, more signals to look at. So it's a more challenging market to trade, but there's a lot more opportunities, in my opinion, to make money now. So, for example, even futures, you can trade futures. You can use a little bit more leveraged products. You've got DeFi products such as compound finance. DeFi is like the next big thing, I guess, with crypto lending. Interest rates, that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a lot more innovation going on, but I would say definitely the biggest market changes because of derivatives, because pricing now, the patterns have completely changed.
Yeah, actually, just building on that. So, as when you trade, do you kind of like look at like the like futures versus spot, and like take that like the do you kind of take that
wow!
information
I mean,
into account?
I look at 4 different exchanges. We've built a custom Google Docs spreadsheet that updates every couple minutes with pricing on multiple exchanges. We've got some command line WebSocket data that we process, just so we have a dashboard, custom data. We look at a lot of charts. We look at CME futures data in real time. So we set up an interactive brokers account just so we can even view CME futures. So we definitely analyze futures data, look at options data, analyze some news, Twitter, CoinDesk, a lot of fundamental news. But definitely, I would say we analyze, order book data. Look at 5-minute, 15-minute, 1 hour, 4 hour charts. Technical analysis. Like I have one guy on my team that all he does is technical analysis. Pretty much, super important.
Yeah, and I think this is I think obviously funds like yours have all these resources who can actually actually do all this research, but individual users it's hard for us to do that. So how can what would you recommend for individuals to
I
should
mean, our
they?
team is not massive. We don't have like a massive team. I've just got
Yeah.
very, very committed people.
Hmm.
So I think it's important. The community is definitely important. So trading, I would say, is like a team sport in some ways.
Hmm. Yeah.
So find like-minded people like yourselves that enjoy trading and kind of share trading ideas is super important. I mean, look, just even you and myself,
Yep.
we get to trade a lot of trading. We share a lot of trading ideas. So I think that that's important because this market trades 24 hours a day, and it become pretty lonely if you're just doing it by yourself.
Yeah, yeah. That's why we encourage people to like just discuss their strategies on Trader Chat and everything. And I think one reason why they don't do as much is because I think they have this conception that they're gonna, if they kind of share their strategy, then everyone's gonna use it, and the amount of money they're gonna
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that people think that
yeah.
because I think in the show Billions it says even if I showed people all my trades and I showed them like the algo I'm using and everything else, just because you can watch a karate movie doesn't mean you know karate, right?
Yeah, yeah. No,
It's the same thing. I can tell you about my strategies all day long, kind of what I use, and I'm very, very open
yeah.
about kind of what we trade. But guess what? How I determine when do we enter and exit, how we size positions. That's all. Even if I gave you my strategy today, it wouldn't necessarily work tomorrow. It depends
Yeah.
on the market.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what people don't, a lot of people don't realize. It's like trading is really about kind of like, it's a human kind of how you think, how the market behaves, and then how you kind of
Psychology
like
is
code up
a
the
huge
market.
part.
Yeah.
I'll even give you a very, very simple trading strategy I use right now. I buy when the market is red and I sell when the market is green. Most people cannot do that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know. I think there's like, I feel like there's like when the market's volatile, sometimes like just kind of just being on the opposite side of where the market's going can actually pick up.
Yeah, I mean, like, so for example, today we thought the price, everybody thinks the price is going to keep going like below 9,000, and we just keep buying at 9,000, and then it goes back up. But it could keep going down. So rather than just, blowing your entire wad all at once, you scale into a position. So if you think the price is going to go down, you buy some at 9,000, you buy some at 90 or 89, 90, and then 88, 80. So you scale in, and I just use simple math, 1%, 0.5% between all the orders. And then if the market hits them and fills, then great. You just place your limit orders. And I think that this is why for people to use Hummingbot effectively, they really need to understand trading.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's, I think one thing is, I think as we've grown, we've seen that, there's the people who have the most success with Hummingbot are the ones who come from a trading background. And we can actually see this in the data as well. Like the folks who are, more experienced, and they're kind of like, it's the folks who are placing less trades, like doing less trades, are actually doing better because
if you take a look at our data, you can probably see like we're not trading that much.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll still execute maybe in a single day if it's really, really busy. We might execute like 30, 40, 50 different trades, but we're not executing thousands of trades per minute.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. 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 I think that's where I think it's actually a lot of folks approach it more like an engineering problem, where it's like, engineering, it's like fast speed is always better, right? And so they kind of like try to
in this case
it
really isn't. Now if you can so what's important is when you trade on exchanges such as Kraken and Binance. Now Kraken's awesome. If you trade more than 10 million bucks, you pay 0% fees. So then you can set limit orders and you have much more narrow spreads. So that's what we do. Right. Binance, if you buy BNB after you trade like 50 Bitcoin, you end up paying, I think, like 5 basis points. Yep. So you can have more narrow spreads.
Right.
So it's important to find exchanges that you can have narrow spreads too, because the more narrow the spreads, the more you can trade. And look, you're only as good as your last trade. So, and losing is part of trading too. You have to be okay to take a loss. I think some traders aren't used to taking a loss, or they don't. Like, wouldn't you rather lose like 0.2%? We have a very, very amazing, interesting philosophy where it's like cut losses quickly and let your winners run. So that's really, really what we try to do. And even we get caught
Yep.
sometimes like, nobody likes losing, but the more you learn to lose in trading and quickly, like lose quickly and just small amounts, like minimizing your losses quickly is probably the most important thing at success to trading. Cut losses quickly.
Yep. Yep. No, that's definitely very helpful.
Yeah.
So just kind of wrapping up.
Psychology too. I would say psychology.
Yeah.
Psychology, like the psychology art of trading, all that kind of stuff is super important if you're a trader.
Right.
Super important.
Yeah. Cool. So just wrapping up a bit. Besides Hummingbot, what are the other sort of like things in the market that you're excited about?
Well, without sounding like I'm biased, we're really not using too many other products. I mean, we use TradingView. It's good. It's a great
Yeah.
website and everything. A lot of technical analysis, but a lot of the stuff that's out there, we tend to kind of build in house.
Right. Yeah.
Like our own trading and whatnot. But Hummingbot's probably the only other product that we really use outside.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And maybe for Hummingbot, like if you had a wish list of like things that we would add to Hummingbot, what would you want?
Mm. Well, I can't wait to see the back testing tools.
Right.
I think being able to view your order history and trade history is super important. I know you guys use a SQLite database, and you can probably like kind of go through it and whatnot.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, there's probably a big list.
Yeah.
For an early product, it's amazing. Like
Yeah.
you guys have done a great job.
Thanks. Yeah, I think from our side, the part that we're most excited about is really kind of like having you guys use a backtesting engine and giving us feedback on that, but also like more deeply integrating our code base into what you're doing, especially on the custom the custom side, because I think there's from our standpoint that I think there's a lot that we can do just in terms of like integration, but also I think we are going to try to make Hummingbot much more modular going forward, so that whether
I think the way that you guys are doing it, connectors now are great. So, for example, I would say like futures right now, probably adding futures is probably super important now.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of liquidity there. So adding Kraken, Binance futures. What would be exciting to see later is to see how if you guys can interface with interactive brokers so that we can use this thing to start trading stocks.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I do agree. Actually, I think we eventually will get there. Because stocks are basically it's just software. In software, we have APIs available, and we should be able to connect to it.
Only difference is I think they use fixed protocol right now. Everything's done with JSON.
Yeah. I think we actually are also starting to see more community members like contribute as well. So before it was mostly us writing the code and building strategy and connectors.
Hey, I'm just happy to be a part of it. Thanks for having me on board.
No, I think your feedback has really helped, because I think it's that professional, experience and advice and wisdom that I think it's allowed us to build the parameters that actually, allow people to like customize their strategies and create all kinds of different things. So I think you're also a big part of our success.
Thanks for creating a product that we can use in a professional sense.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, this has been great. I know I was very late over there. Oh, actually, before you go, can you tell user base about kind of like where you are and kind of like
Sure. I'm in ADG. Right now I'm in Abu Dhabi. And one of the reasons I picked Abu Dhabi, well, I'm Canadian, so I'm not subject to a lot of the U.S. tax regime. And Canada's got this nice non-residency law, so I'm a resident here. So they got 0% income tax, 0% capital gains. Plus, it's sunny here all year round. I mean, I love it here. We're like an hour from Dubai, so it's pretty neat.
Yeah,
I'm from Vancouver, and we spend a lot of time fly back and forth.
Yep. Yeah, that's amazing. I think that I think the thing with crypto is that it's like, even though you're Canadian, I'm American, I think we're really the citizens of the world. And I think crypto, like Oracle, we're basically global now, both as a company and as a community.
Yeah, and I think what's great about being here is we're exactly 12 hours opposite of you guys. So I mean, we run a 24-hour trading desk and fund. So
cool. Oh, and finally, if people wanted to know more about you and the fund, where should they go?
So the fund is really kind of more for accredited investors only. So I think minimum investment is around $500,000 US. So it's more for the high net worth. So I don't really deal in kind of like the consumer space and whatnot. But the fund, there's not too much information you can find about it online. It's kind of one of those things where, yeah, you just
gotta know the right people.
Invite only.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad you made the time for this because Harry's actually, you're one of the most kind of one of the most influential like OGs in the Bitcoin space.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's amazing you're able to share some of your nuggets of wisdom with the Hummingbot community. So thank you very much.
Hey, I'm happy to anytime.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we'll wrap it up here, and thank you very much, Harry.
Great, thanks, Michael.
All right.